The latest inflation numbers, obviously top of mind for a lot of people because you're paying it. 9.1% on the year. Good morning. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. You can always find me online. Just search Bishop on Air at gmail.com or find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search out Bishop on Air. However, for whatever reason, my Twitter account doesn't seem to be wanting to load up. So that's interesting. Not sure why that's going on, but I guess we'll keep you posted on when you can connect with me on Twitter. Just search out Bishop on Air on social media, and we'll be able to connect. All right, so let's look at the Consumer Price Index and all the numbers that there are. It's pretty staggering when you really break out. It's not just the 9.1% increase. It's when you unpack that, you see where some of these substantial increases are coming from. So this is directly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it highlights how, the adjusted 12-month period and how much the increased prices for these various categories. I mean, look at, for instance, gasoline, all types. You've got 59.9%. Then when you look at food, you've got a variety of increases, and food at home is 12.2% increased. And then even new vehicles, you're looking at some pretty sharp increases there. But most notably, of course, fuel oil. That seems to be driving the overall energy costs up 41.6%, but fuel oil is 98.5%. That is just absolutely incredible. And that's something that when I talked with Trevor Miller, he is a business owner with Precision Detailing here in Springfield. He laid out there for us about how this is ultimately costing him down the line, and it's costing his customers as well. But there's only so much that Trevor can do as a business owner without ultimately pushing customers away. So here's Trevor talking about some of the impacts of the increased inflation costs.
So I've experienced the prices for our materials, say going from $2,800 to $5,000 in a year and a half, and you can't double your prices because you're not going to get anybody to come in and buy it unless this continues on, which I don't see it ever stopping for quite a while. Those things are happening on a daily basis. I mean, our paint went up 9% this past about 2 weeks ago. All of our materials, window tinting, all those materials, detailing materials, and then also all the material or all the things that we say buy on Amazon. Now we pay tax on all of that, which is, we're already taxed on everything. So that's something that they did I don't know when they did that, but last year, sure, now everybody gets taxed. So it's just one hit after another. And then your employees, they can't afford to live, so you're giving them everything, every bit of your profit that you can, that you're already paying out double for the materials that you were, paying less than half of that last year. And you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars that are just going out for shipping or material, the shipping costs. What used to cost me $100 to get something here from California, they told me $450 last week. $450. How's that? That's nowhere near a 9% inflation increase. Again, I don't see where they're coming up with their numbers, but
It's again, that's Trevor Miller, the operator of Precision Detailing, talking about the inflation costs. And I told him about the increase in gasoline and fuel oil being up and gasoline being up quite a bit, and more from Trevor.
And that is all. That is where our costs come in from our materials, is because it takes so much to get it here or to build it or whatever. That it's, again, the we were talking earlier about the semi drivers and stuff, and they pass that cost on, but they're passing it on to the manufacturer and the consumer.
Yeah, and so let's now hear from the Chamber of Commerce CEO, Todd Maisch, who also reacted to the latest inflation numbers and did a little bit of prognostication as well as to what to expect in the future. Here's Todd Maisch in the conversation I had with him yesterday, right after those inflation numbers were ultimately released.
Sure. What I think, when you look at the numbers, and we haven't seen these type of numbers since transition from the Carter to the Reagan administration, that it reflects what I think we've known for a long time, which is anytime government pushes a whole lot of money into the economy, it only makes certain bubbles that were already there that much worse. And I think that's what we saw with the pandemic spending. Some of it was necessary, but clearly it was overdone.
So Todd Maisch with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce also talking about the impacts on consumers and businesses alike.
Yeah, there are certain economics that are just you can't avoid, and unfortunately, it means that people are going to be paying higher prices for almost everything for a period of time. And probably of great interest to homeowners is that you can't look at your home as an investment anymore, that you can fund retirement or what have you. It's a place to raise your family. It's not an investment vehicle, because housing prices are going to start to collapse, I believe.
And he also has some prognostication he does about the labor market, because that's something else we're starting to see some signs of, that there could be some layoffs.
I think it is already starting to show up in that while the labor market remains strong, I think we were at 368,000 last month in job creation, that job creation number is going to start to come down. On a national level, we've already seen a lot of technology companies that pay very high wages that have been growing almost exponentially, ceasing to hire or even starting to cut employment. And unfortunately, even a great success story for the state of Illinois, Rivian Motors up the road in Bloomington has announced job cuts. So unfortunately, there are going to be more of those coming. I do think, though, that the underlying economy is strong, that we have a technology-based economy, much more so than we did back in 1979 and 1980, and that it is more efficient, and we're going to weather the storm much better. But it's still, you're going to see job cuts.
Now, Todd Maisch with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, when I talked with him about inflation, he talked about a strong economic prospect for the country. But what about Illinois in particular, with its finances and tendencies towards tax increases and more spending? He had a message for state policymakers.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I do think that Illinois can use this as a real opportunity to send a signal to the business community here in our state, as well as across the nation, about what path we're going to take. Because anytime the economy slows down, so do revenues flowing into government. So the governor and legislature can have to decide, are we going to go ahead and say, hey, it's a recession, we've got to raise taxes, we've got to find a way to pay for things that, essentially we can't pay for? Or are we going to weather the storm and show that government can be on sound fiscal footing, be conservative on our expenditures, and not raise taxes at the worst possible time? That's the real question for policymakers in Illinois.
So the Illinois Chamber of Commerce seeing a storm a-coming, an economic storm that's going to bring some impacts like job losses and a decline in housing values. At least that's what he sees in the tea leaves. So we'll be watching that space closely. It's right here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News.